Hey, you random stranger. I hope life's been treating you well. It's been a while since our last reaction, but today's going to be good because we are on to Keep Your Hands Off Eizouken episode 2. It is very cool seeing the excitement for this show, especially from some of you who know a lot more about animation than I do or were ex-animation students. And I think it'll be really interesting to get that perspective. I relate in a way that whenever I watch a show that really digs into the techniques and the nitty gritty details of something that I'm really passionate about, I think the equivalent for me would be whenever there's music in anime. I get that much more joy out of watching it. And I get kicks out of seeing how they portray the complexities of that craft. It's also cool that it seems like we've got a good mix of first time watchers and also old timers. I appreciate those who love this show so much that they would rewatch it with the reactions, as well as those who are willing to give something new and different a go, which is what this channel is all about. So yeah, the more different perspectives that we get, the more interesting it becomes. And so yeah, I'm really glad that you guys decided to join this journey. Okay, let's get right to it. So in this recap, I think what will come up the most is the art style of Eizouken and the bold, creative impression that it leaves on people who watch it. So from Valethus in the comments, I think Eizouken really captures a sense of childlike wonder in this first episode. The fast pace and rapid back and forth dialogue feels like you're being carried from one idea to another by creative energy. The voice actors providing the sound effects create a playground like feeling, like children acting out their fantasies with one another and giving them life through their own voices. I think the frenetic energy and speed show passion and excitement on the part of the creators. Yeah, this comment was everything I was trying to express as I was getting hit with that first episode, not knowing anything about the show. There's definitely like a thread of excitement that runs through the seamless transitions between scenes that are meant to be the real world and then the imagined world that the girls dream up. And I think it was Youngblood. Yeah, Youngblood who also mentioned the brilliant way that the show uses three very distinct styles of art. So the grounded, more solid lines and colors for the real world, the concept art and the watercolors for the imaginary world, and then the plain colors and sort of no lines for the animations. Uh, the way and the fast pace at which these styles are used interchangeably really makes you feel the spirit or the joy that went into bringing this particular story to life, which is actually kind of amazing when you stop and think about it. Something else that I learned from you guys, man, I learned so much just from the comments from the first episode, but is about the distinct artistic style of the director Masaaki Yuasa. So Soda wrote, one of the biggest names in modern anime, his style is defined by simple character designs that allow the characters to shift in form in a fluid, freeform way, as well as expressive, exaggerated movement. It oozes with creativity and joy that reflects just how much the characters, author, and staff working on the show absolutely love anime. To me, this show is pure magic and joy in motion. Yeah, it was fascinating to do a bit more research on this style of art and animation. And it was Ken Hien on this who very usefully mentioned a name for this kind of work, which is like loose line art animation style, which I hadn't heard of before because I am a complete art know nothing. So I did a bit of digging and I realized that loose line art is the equivalent of free writing, which is where you allow whatever's flowing in your imagination to spill out onto paper in this messy, completely unedited form so that you can more authentically capture the raw thoughts and emotions that you are feeling right in that moment, which explains why, despite or because of the sketchy, rough, quick nature of the words or the drawings, this explosion of movement and flow of energy is able to be conveyed. Like Rogashingo said, the fact that the animation is very sketch-like is not indicative of, issues with budget or with time. It's actually a very deliberate choice, and there's a lot of fantastic animation that's going on. So things like the overview of this strange town our characters live in with all its layers and levels and paths, or the way a lot of the make-believe drawings start as 2D but quickly become 3D or become something our characters first see on a page and then quickly inhabit, like going inside the dragonfly craft. And then they go on to talk about how there's so much detail in the art, in the sketches that Asakusa and Mizusaki do, and that sometimes you'll have these sketches like lay upright on, like face up on a table, and you can sort of barely see them, but you can also see that they keep that detail, that extreme detail in there, which, yeah, I paused. I went back, rewatched the episode, and I paused on those scenes. For example, another one is where Kanamori just really quickly flicks through Asakusa's sketchbook, and you get split seconds to see them. But the amount of detail and the work that is poured into those split second shots of those sketches really drums up my respect for the artists who actually did these. With regards to the setting, I love how everything Asakusa sees becomes part of her world. The real world itself is already quite fascinating. It's a city built on top of a river, which has experienced numerous renovations and expansions over time, which has resulted in this complicated and inexplicable network of underground tunnels and bridges and just a maze-like hodgepodge of random buildings. Even the school, like Asakusa says, is built like a dungeon. So we get what is already an eccentric world, but you add Asakusa and then later Mizusaki's descriptions and narrations and imaginary additions, and then this otherworldly factor is then multiplied by 1,000. So it feels like we're Asakusa in that scene where she's sitting in her room, and all of a sudden the chair that she's sitting on zooms into the screen as she becomes completely immersed in the anime that she's watching. So like her, we get lost in this richness of an imaginary world that becomes just as real as the real world, if not more. Naitano also commented on the set design and also some tributes to certain anime legends in the episode. They mentioned how the very first scene with Asakusa and her family driving their car to move to a new town is very reminiscent of the first scene in Spirited Away, the Studio Ghibli film that also starts off very normal looking, but then of course draws you into this huge fantastical world. And yeah, thinking back to that, I can totally see the parallels there. They also wrote the other Miyazaki reference is more obvious, Future Boy Conan, who had many well-known people in the anime industry working on it. There's Miyazaki Hayao and Takahata Isao of Studio Ghibli fame, Otsuka Yasuo, who is the mentor of those two and who sadly passed away earlier this year. Even Yoshiyuki Tomino, creator of Gundam, was involved. So yeah, that was interesting to learn, and some of you also told me that because they couldn't use the original Conan anime, the Eizouken animators actually recreated and then reanimated their own Conan scenes, which again shows a level of dedication that is very inspiring. Naitaro continued, I really appreciate the background design. The background is a character on its own and has its own history, which is a really interesting way to put it. It reminded me actually of how in Made in Abyss, the abyss itself, due to its mysteriousness and this outsized impact it has on how the characters live their lives, becomes a character in its own right. And I love that it's a similar vibe for the setting of Eizouken, except of course without all of the literal child devouring aspects. And then Nigel gave the example of the laundromat with the air conditioner in the doorway. So there, you could even come up with your own story about how that happened. Maybe the air conditioner was too big and that was the only place to put it. Maybe the people installing it were lazy and didn't want to put the effort to cut a hole in the wall. Who knows? But it just makes the setting much more richer and grounded. Yeah, because of this comment, I spent way too much time sort of thinking about that aircon unit. Like, why? That's a really good question. My theory is that a long, long time ago, a weird architect thought it would be funny to just stick an air conditioner over the door, or maybe they were making some kind of political statement, about social norms. I don't know. But then, the building became abandoned, and then decades later, new building regulations were passed that didn't allow for certain structures to be demolished. And so the new owners who took over the building weren't allowed to take down the air conditioner or that particular door or wall with it, and then just had to begrudgingly build the laundromat around it. Yeah, that's my story anyway. And I just love that there are cues in the setting that allow us to build on it with our imaginations in much the same way as the girls do. Character-wise, so Emanon made a good observation about where Asakusa's passion for anime might have originated. They wrote, even though we can see the maturation in her art style after the flashback, she's clearly taken a deep interest at a young age. I wonder if this passion is inspired by her parents. The line, "watch some anime for me," caught my attention, as this is quite some unique phrasing, or if this is entirely something she alone was interested in and her parents simply took notice. Yeah, so when Asakusa's mom goes to pick up her dad, she tells Asakusa to watch some anime while she waits. Say if her parents really are very supportive of Asakusa's obsession with and drive to make anime, like at the very least they are not discouraging her. It would be an interesting contrast to Mizusaki's parents, who are clearly going out of their way to stop their daughter from having anything to do with animation. It is certain though that Asakusa's dream to create her own anime is really given a boost when she realizes that the anime she watches was made by someone, and fascinatingly she's self-aware enough to know that to create an anime will require being part of a team, because she says, it's not something that I can do by myself, which creates an interesting obstacle or challenge for Asakusa, because it's made clear in the first episode that she doesn't naturally take to people. At the start, there's that scene where she's observing the school festival from a high vantage point, and the camera like pans out across the festival, showing how crowded it is and all the people, having their fun. But when it focuses back onto what Asakusa's drawing in a sketchbook, you see that she's only drawing the buildings and the stalls and all of the laneways, all in very high detail, but without any people. And I thought it was just such a neat way to draw attention to the fact that she was something that she explicitly says about herself, which is that she doesn't do well in crowds and that she's a bit or a lot socially awkward, which I relate to a lot, especially when I was younger. Other signs are like when Asakusa won't go to the anime club herself and has to drag Kanamori along. And then when they do arrive in that theater, Asakusa immediately, steers them towards the seats at the back. So I'd be curious to see how Mizusaki balances out Asakusa not just with her art, which coincidentally is predominantly of people, but personality-wise and socially as well. Mizusaki is the social butterfly, either because she was naturally born that way or it was forced out of her at an early age due to her, early start career as a famous model and budding actress. And I'd like to see what role she might play in drawing Asakusa out of her shell and vice versa. Like how Asakusa will inspire Mizusaki to keep pursuing her passion of drawing and of animation in the face of strong opposition from her family. Another curious thing about the relationship between Asakusa and Kanamori is the way that they address and talk to each other. Oliver Yoyado pointed out a cool thing, which is that Kanamori and Asakusa often use the she honorific when talking with each other. Originally, it's a very formal way of speaking, like saying madam in English, and it's supposed to show that they really are two otaku friends because it's common for those who ironically use this type of archaic language. Yeah, thank you for that fact. I would not have picked up on that, I don't think. I just thought it was a little bit weird that they kind of another side of their social awkwardness, I guess. But yeah, that was very interesting. It also explains a lot about their unique relationship. Though they are very different people, they share in the experience of being outsiders. Like they don't fit in easily with the mainstream society, which is why, despite their differences, they can vibe with each other so well. I also get the sense that Kanamori is best girl for a lot of people, which I'm very happy about. And another cool piece of trivia from Järvinen, for those of you who have watched the other shows that I've reacted to, Kanamori's VA, Mutsumi Tamura, also voiced Morga in Hoseki no Kuni and Nat in Made in Abyss. Both roles that fall into a similar category of close friend or person who antagonizes the main protagonist a little bit, but with good intentions. Both sort of no nonsense type characters, which makes sense again given the tone of voice that she has. I want to quickly revisit that scene in the theater where Asakusa is explaining to Kanamori the techniques that are being used in Conan, which I had to watch several times to really catch everything that Asakusa was saying. And she delivers in this rapid fire explanation how the machine can fly due to some unexplained anti-gravity device, but which is drawn in extreme detail, the visual clues of which are used to make it feel real, even though something completely unrealistic is happening on screen, like the characters picking up the aircraft with their bare hands. And then she goes on about the framing and the location and the motion of the camera as the character is running, how all of that helps set up the character's physicality, how the size contrast and the sweeping wide shots and the debris in the air creates a sense of propulsion, and how all of that allows the artist to make something, again, totally implausible pass off like it is. And then you realize at the end of the episode that most, if not all, of those things are realized in Asakusa and Mizusaki's created adventure when they draw the aircraft and are chased by the boogeymen. And Hannah A mentioned this, which I thought was so cool, that every time animation techniques are discussed, some of them are also used in the episode itself, making these kind of like Easter eggs that we can pay attention to and look for. An example being when in Asakusa and Mizusaki's fantastical world, Kanamori and Mizusaki hang off the ship to tilt it to one side to fit it in the gap of the two buildings. And the other thing I remember also is they hop off the aircraft to push it so that it'll start, and then they run after the plane after it started. So again, just a full recreation of what Asakusa was explaining to Kanamori in that theater. It's taking reality and exaggerating it in a really crazy way while somehow making it believable, which is very cool. The other thing I appreciate about these technical explanations is that often with insanely good works, or shows or books or any kind of art piece, especially to people who aren't experienced with the technical intricacies of the creative process or don't have the right technical vocabulary to describe it, it's almost impossible to explain coherently why something works so well. Or, I mean, one of the ways that you know something is amazing is that at no point do you stop and think, oh my God, this is amazing, because you're so immersed into something, and that creative piece has already done all of the hard work, ensuring that your brain accepts it as reality, even if it's reality that is completely idealized or bizarre. And so it feels like this show is one of those rare ones where the secrets of how something gets to be so good is unlocked one at a time. So not only is it incredibly entertaining, but it's also very educational as well, which I love. Last little note, I was very happy to find out that the OP Easy Breezy is by a legit Japanese rap duo, Kamilko or Kelmiko, and the MV is equally trippy. I also love that the overall soundtrack that we got a taste of in episode 1 is scored to match perfectly with the chaotic nature of their adventures. It uses this unusual mix of instruments, and I love that the track that plays when the girls are imagining things and creating their stories, that Wild West sounding backing track, that uses a lot of human made sounds. So, not vocals in the pop song sense, but vocals in the atmospheric sense, which again matches up so well to how the girls, when they are narrating their adventures, use their own homemade sound effects as well. All right, guys. Wow, that turned out to be a lot longer than I expected. So, if you guys are ready, let's dive right into episode 2 of Keep Your Hands Off Eizouken. Yeah, let's do it in 3, 2, 1, play. I love how it's just completely normal for high schoolers to climb out of potholes. The camouflage, military grade. Yeah, it's built for an adventurer. Eh? Yeah, get with the plebs. Mizusaki will learn. Is she shy? Having to face the faculty. I think Kanamori already has. I was gonna say she already has it all figured out. Don't worry, she'll get it done one way or another, including through force. They need to find a niche. Free labor. That's decent, right? It's away though. That's because his face. Oh, they need their Sawako. He's the right kind of eccentric. Eh? He looks like God. So the Eizouken is the name of the club? Anyway. Okay, let's pick out some things from this OP. I love that Kanamori gets the fist. Is it just me, or do the way that they pose is the way that they pose very in keeping with their characters? And the way that they dance as well, like Kanamori is quite awkward and gawky, and then Mizusaki, of course, is very elegant. Uh, again, Kanamori gets like the business chart. Oh man, there's like hundreds of things in this OP. Again, it's very Easter eggy. It's a floppy disk. The rusty old shed. That's the real talk. It could be very cool club headquarters though. But they have no budget yet. It's got all those holes anyway. You gotta fix the building first. That's where you gotta start. The struggling artist. Clearly has no experience with cleaning. Labor materials. Yeah, they don't need any of that. All they need is their imaginations. Kanamori, the receptionist. And you can make it fly as well. She's very into aircraft. Propeller skirt. Kanamori is like, physics. Hello. Don't distract me with details. What's she doing on her phone? Oh, is she gonna like file for like safety reasons? Get a budget? Wait. Oh no. Oh, Kanamori. Oh, it's brilliant, but it's brutal. I just wonder, how is it that she already has those middlemen connections? Did this girl even have a childhood? Hmm. You make your pudding with what you've got. Oh, okay, that's more straightforward. I guess the school would be sued for that. It is good blackmail material. Either way, they get what they want. Her brain just doesn't stop ticking with the practicals. Okay, so the Eizouken is the film that they're gonna be making? What? Why? No celebrations, no cake, no plate spinning. Like birthdays. She is. They could just fit out the entire place with random stuff from Mizusaki's home. Hmm. She has problems with a lot of people. You know, I love how Mizusaki is really chill. We've got both of those bases covered. Again, pulling those two back to like the basics. Just pure action, right? Um, I love that even she has to sort of strategize in her own head away from those two. Oh, I did not know that. Like a true artist. Don't run in the hall. Yes, don't say the A word. I don't know if Asakusa cannot say the anime word though. She loves it so much. That's a super nice staff room, by the way. Look at those nice open windows. Anime Culture Research Group. Yeah, man, go all lawyer on his ass. Man, she is a force, Kanamori is. She doesn't even need to complete high school, just drop out and start her own mega corporation. That's such a weird propeller, like wind energy thing. And abandoned stuff that a previous anime club left behind. Uh, Damn, there's just like hiding in a old abandoned shed. Oh. Oh man, she knows her stuff so well. The paints. A feather sweeper for the pencil shavings? What? The excitement in her voice. Ah. Oh, is this, are they gonna go into their world now? Uh, Whoa, I feel like that was some very razor sharp commentary on the general anime studio situation and how much animators get paid. Oh man, I know none of this stuff. That was so cool how she used like the angles of a normal profile to apply it to the windmill. Also, this backing track again, just lots of random sound effects. Yes, how do you do wind in animation? Kanamori. Because it's like she's just suddenly finds herself in this new world and she's like, oh, okay. Oh shit. Oh, look, she's carrying Misasaki. It's fictional, so no, there's no physics. Just the physics that we create. It always does. Again, those two just hanging off the side, directing the boat. Parting of the buildings. There's like the greatest world, and now we've got the greatest windmill. Like that rainbow on the side. They sold it. Oh. Oh, yes, this ED. Sung by Kami-sama. I think that's what they were called. Like band with that covered their faces with these masks. The voice is just so unique. Like it's not low and it's not your typical high vocal range either. It's so clean as well. I love how Kanamori is running. She's kind of hunched over. She's very tall. The couch. Oh, what was that? Oh, is that from the manga? Okay, so we are one step closer to fulfilling the girls' dream of making anime. They have a headquarters, they've got a fill in supervisor, and they have super expensive couches. And they've just found a treasure trove of camera equipment and pencils and anime paper to get started. Favorite moments of this episode? Kanamori just making things happen, man. She's got the budget all planned out. She's got plans B's and C's in case they don't get the money that they need to start production, including getting that awesome, super dangerous footage of Asakusa almost dying. So while Asakusa and Mizusaki are getting really excited about the creative piece that they're actually going to make, Kanamori is worried about what genre is going to sell best, how they're going to raise the funds to fix their shack of a building, and what blackmail is best to use against that teacher who is so adamant that they can't have the same focus as the anime club, which already exists and which they are not. So, Kanamori just proving more and more why she is almost everyone's best girl. It makes me wonder why she's even in high school and why she doesn't just drop out when she already has all of the tools to make it big out there in the big bad world. Other parts I appreciated the explanations of how designs are drawn onto that special paper. I think they were called cells, and then put against the different backgrounds, and then how you can animate those using that massive machine with the crank. I can't even explain it properly because, again, I know nothing, but it was really fascinating to see them run through again all of that technical knowledge about how an idea goes from being a concept to the screen. The other thing I like is how we see again that Mizusaki lives a very privileged life, but she doesn't use it or can't use it to take huge shortcuts on this journey of theirs to make their own anime. Yeah, she donated a couple of 3 million yen couches, but they still have to jump through all of those hoops of registering a new club under the auspices of being a film club, of finding the right materials and equipment, and of fixing up their place, and just a whole bunch of other problems that I'm sure will crop up, including her parents and those bodyguards that I don't know where they've disappeared to. Surely they must be keeping an eye on her and suspect that something is up. So, yeah, all in all, again, just an episode that went by extremely quickly. Let me know what you guys thought. And the next reaction definitely won't take as long because I am, for now, touch wood, less busy than I was. So, until then, be good and we'll talk soon.